hold on here.
Okay.
He was at the Southern Conference Media Days yesterday. Now he's at the Big South Media Days, now writing for HeroSports.com as well as MidMajorMadness.com. It's SoCon John Hooper. And what is this? Now you're going to be Big South John Hooper? What's going on here?
No, I just, it was easier for me to make the trip than Brian McLaughlin, who does such a wonderful job of trying to get around to each of the media days. And I told him that I'd be available to come up and be able to cover this for Hero Sports. So here I am.
Okay, no, that's and by the way, I mean, more power to you. I'm not suggesting at all that you should. I mean, no, expand your portfolio by all means. I would like to do it myself, so that's not a knock by any means. Congratulations for the extra gig. I'll ask you, what are the differences now this year, SoCon Media Days and Big South Media Days?
They're similar. They do. I think that the SoCon, there's more with, at a table where you can kind of conduct the interviews one-on-one. We just did the breakout media session with the Big South, so they're doing some interviews right now, and it's just kind of, you go around and instead of having them seated at a table per se, you just kind of get with the SID at that respective school and ask them, if their coach or players are available. And that's how they've been doing it in here. So, they're very similar. The one thing I think the Big South did a little bit different was they had each coach speak during the luncheon today. So, SoCon did not have that, but they did have the commissioner speak at both of them. So, there are a lot more similarities than differences.
I can see that. And so is there a feel of any difference in culture? I mean, let's face it. Big South, you think Kennesaw State and everybody else.
Well, it's actually kind of funny because the MC of the, and there's mistakes at every award show on TV and everything. So, but he kind of commented that, they were recognizing each player that was there. And, that there were members of the all-conference team, and then they left Kennesaw State's one of their players off the list, who just happened to also be the defensive player of the year and a Bucky Buchanan Award candidate. So the guy tried to save himself, and he said, well, our email actually got hacked by the SoCon.
Oh, my.
I don't know what that meant, but, he said they were upset that Kennesaw State beat Wofford in the playoffs last year, and they were getting revenge. Anyway, that being said, there's a lot of similarities between the two media days. I think both have done a wonderful job of putting on a very first-class operation.
Let me ask you this. I was surprised that... I was surprised with media days that the sessions seemed to be so short. Am I missing something? Because yesterday at SoCon Media Days, VMI, they're first for 10 minutes. And then, what was it? The Citadel is second for 10 minutes. And then the, ETS, 10 minutes, and all this. I'm reminded Jeremy Pruitt took 22 minutes just to talk to the media behind the podium at SEC Media Days. I mean, was this, hi, I'm the coach, fire away without an open statement? How did this work?
Yeah, I think they were trying to, some of the, like VMI, I guess, at Stanford, I guess they went early on because they had such a long trip ahead of them. But I guess they were trying to give a chance for each of the media members to meet with each of the student athletes and the coaches, and then also have a chance for each of them to get around and get up on TV or live stream with Humanity and allow him to kind of fire some quick questions at them. And I guess they tried to keep it, short and sweet, so to speak, so that everyone would have a chance to get sound bites from both that part of it and as well
Okay, so does the Big South, is it the same, basically or the rapid fire where I guess you're going to tables and such, or is it more like
it's more of a hodgepodge right now, it appears to be, but I think some of the people, when I came out here to get on your show, some of the people are still matriculating over from the lunch room from there into the media room, so it may settle into players and coaches sitting down, but the news people that were here, they typically want to get the on camera and on film stuff first, and then everybody's kind of settled into a rotation or a routine, so to speak.
I just love the fact that you use the word matriculate. I now want to know if you're going to call for the 65 toss power trap and start calling me one of your rats. That's my thing right now. Okay, Hank? Yeah, well, who doesn't? There's a reason he's in the Hall of Fame, is he not? Also, a guy who had a baseball background, and I think that's part of where his strategic acumen, if you will, came from. But we are talking about the Southern Conference. Let's talk about media days. Biggest surprise for you out of the media days? Was there a quote there that one of the coaches gave? Was there a selection in the media poll that you thought was, wow, I didn't see this coming? What was the biggest surprise for you?
Oh, the biggest, I thought, I think I said this on maybe Facebook last night, I thought the Citadel was picked a little bit low. I mean,
yeah.
They had the seventh. I expected them to be, pretty much substantially better than that. I think, Sanford 6. That seems about right. Not really any surprises that came out of that. I had a fascinating conversation with Wofford's head coach, Josh Conklin, and just talking about how football has, kind of evolved into a sport to where you've got, and it's what we talked about in basketball, really. If you've got an athlete that can run in space, and there's so many dual threat quarterbacks now, he said, the future, I think it was Michael Lombardi that he was listening to, said that the future of football could be like sort of like we talked about with basketball, a positionless sport where you could have two quarterbacks on the field at the same time because of the amount of skills that they had, to be able to bring to the table. And when you get them in space, he said basically a dual threat quarterback, the key to it is to get those guys in space and create room for them, just like a wide receiver or running back.
Interesting.
So a fascinating conversation, very laid back head coach, but at the same time, very just sort of a philosopher, I think.
We came from a defensive. He came from a defensive background. Of course, I had last year Paul Zeiss, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, whose son played for Josh Conklin at Pitt. Talk a little bit about him. So there you go, right there. And that son, by the way, Elijah Zeiss, is now going to Los Angeles Chargers training camp. Trying to make it as a free agent and such. Anyway, yeah. But if you remember the Pitt, Virginia game, Elijah Zeiss came up with the game-winning sack at the end of the game, if you will. That was on Virginia and all that. So that was. That was when let's see here, Pat Narduzzi went for it inside his own 10 in the on fourth and short. So there you go, the modern football strategy, but it worked out and all this. We've talked so much about the ranking. You said you were a little surprised. Citadel, that's the team that nobody really figures out. I didn't think much of the Citadel. I picked them for 8th because I don't see anything really outstanding about the Citadel. But I saw Hero Sports pick them for 25th. Was that you?
I would disagree with that. They won, 3 of their last 4.
Well, they were 5 and 6 last year, and I just sort of get it. We talk about the talent coming back at VMI, and I know you go broke betting on VMI, but I just kind of thought, they're going to play that game on October 5th, and VMI is going to throw, and the Citadel's going to run, and I kind of like throwing. Those are sort of.
The thing about it is, though, they started a different quarterback at the Final Four game. Brandon Rainey, who all the, everyone thought was the best going into the season. But, here they've got a senior quarterback, and he's pretty good, too. And he had won, I guess, a Southern Conference championship, so it was hard to unseat him as a starter, a kid that, Jordan Black did all the right things and was an outstanding student. And I think that made it hard to make that change. But, Brandon Rainey, I mean, if you look at it on paper, he blew out Stanford, who was the preseason favorite. They came from a deficit in the second half to beat Western Carolina, and he had Alabama tied at halftime. So, I mean, looking at it from that perspective, you can see why you could make an argument for the fact that, maybe the reason things didn't work early in the season was because of the quarterback situation.
Possibly. I still, you're running, what they're running the wishbone or whatever, you get the idea. Look, I'm remembering when ETSU beat top-ranked Georgia Southern in the Mini-Dome 2001, and I remember online conversations, yes, even as early as 2001, with Georgia Southern fans who said, well, we were starting our fourth-string quarterback in that game.
We didn't have JRV or
yeah, and I said, but you run the ball every down. What's the big deal on that?
Yeah.
And that then that went into the conversation that the Georgia Southern quarterback was not really a quarterback, but rather a hand offerer. That was a great line, by the way. Whoever the anonymous message board poster on the now defunct Buccaneer Bible, I think it was, came up with that one. Or maybe it was. Yes, a hand offerer. So you mentioned, but I still, okay, maybe it's a prejudice there or something.
Although I've heard that's harder than it looks.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, I get that. I get what they're saying, but I'm like saying, you never throw the ball. I mean, is this as big of a deal as, Dan Marino and his backup is down and now you got to go with, is this Tom Tupa playing quarterback in the NFL, really? I mean, there's a dated reference for you right there, but nevertheless.
Quarterback, is that right?
Now, Tom Tupa was, he used to be a quarterback punter at Ohio State. And he was primarily a punter in the NFL. He did, start, I think, 1 year or half of 1 year for the Arizona Cardinals. But primarily, he was a guy that, you signed as a punter and you just figured, we don't need a third-string quarterback anymore. We've got Tupa. If it gets down to that, we can, and so you could have another roster spot, And there was actually one game I remember, I think it was with the Jets, late 90s, where, he came in because the backup quarterback, couldn't play under the rules of the time until the fourth quarter without, having to play the entire game was the idea.
Right.
So and Tupa's starting to throw touchdown passes and everything. And as if I remember, the guy that came in lost the game for the Jets. So that was yeah, that was like Tom Tupa's last stand and all that. So, I mean, anyway, we're talking about backup quarterbacks now and all this. Who, by the way, the ETSU Buccaneers may have 8 of this year. So, there you go. Tri-City Sports Now, and we're with SoCon John Hooper. The only other thing I wanted to ask you from Media Days, Jim Schaus, he concluded the meeting. There's a interview with them, Jeff Birchfield and Johnson City Press today, although I don't really see him being all that revealing in here in his interview. There is the new TV deal that the Southern Conference has put in with Nexstar, and I still am curious about this because they say in the press release that Nexstar affiliates include WJHL, but I can't imagine that WJHL, for instance, on November 2nd is going to show the Citadel at ETSU ahead of the SEC game on CBS. They're a CBS affiliate, so I'm thinking they'll probably pawn it off to one of the other stations and such. Nevertheless, just the conversation, what did Schaus tell you that was revealing in the media session?
Well, I think one of the things I gathered from our conversation yesterday, he's looking at bringing back Basketball Media Day, which is something that the SoCon used to have, but you made a good point. If you have a season like they just had, to look for possibly in the fall. And now I understand it's hard for a lot of people because of football still going on, and it's hard for media to kind of do the balancing act there. But he seemed adamant about bringing back basketball media day, and it's like what do you have to lose? Really nothing. It's you want to go out there and get the publicity, you got to go get it. And that's one of the ways to do it, and I totally agree with his outlook on that.
And we've talked a little bit about that. We thought the Southern Conference should think basketball first. Normally I don't say that, but I think there are some reasons to do it at this level that you wouldn't, let's say, in the SEC or even the ACC. Yeah, you heard me. I mean, you always used to think basketball first, the ACC, but I'm not sure that's the way to go anymore. And I believe football revenues do exceed basketball revenues in the ACC and have for quite some time now. So, anyway, that's a case right there. So, basketball media days. The one thing in his interview in John C. Press with Jeff Birchfield today, SoCon John Hooper, that he revealed was he was talking about how, now more people watching games, let's say, on their iPhone, online, and that's the future, and I see that, but still, I don't think people like ESPN Plus. I don't think that, even though it's, $5 a month or so, I just think that there's sort of ESPN Plus. Let's go listen to it on the radio. I mean, I literally think it's kind of that way. The other thing that I don't think that people like, in fact, that's one of the reasons it was said that Connecticut, they didn't like seeing how the American was going to have so many games on ESPN Plus, and so that's one of the reasons why they left the American and went back to the Big East, supposedly. The other, so that I understand where they're going. The other thing is just, look, Facebook Live is very precious to Tri-City Sports Now, but we also broadcast over the air and at www.jetbroadcasting.live. How bad did LeVar Ball's basketball league look that they only broadcast the games on Facebook Live?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's going to take locating the right relationship with a media conglomerate for the new commissioner to kind of do away with, altogether, maybe ESPN Plus. But the problem with that is ESPN Plus and ESPN has kind of cornered the market on that, So, and it's hard to, unseat, big FBS national games on local networks, like you mentioned earlier. So they've got to find some compromise, I think, to be able to do that. And I'm not sure what that is yet, but maybe that, maybe there is something that will happen in the fall meetings that will occur right near the time that the basketball media day will probably be, and that will be something to look at. Certainly, I think it's doable for basketball because I think there is enough interest and out there that you're not looking at having to go up against a lot of national games on the nights the SoCon plays. So maybe it's more doable for basketball than football right now.
I don't have the entire Southern Conference schedule in front of me, but I will say this. I was disappointed on that TV schedule that October 5th was going to be VMI at the Citadel. Not that I don't see the appeal of that game, but instead of ETSU hosting Wofford, because I think that could be at the time for first place and maybe even ultimately for the conference title.
Right.
And that's what I was, you want to say, and I don't want to sound like one of these guys that, ETSU all the time on. That's not me. And my listeners know that. But, take away ETSU at Western Carolina. I mean, if you got to put a game with VMI and a Citadel, we got to show all the teams or something like that. I mean, figure out who they play then or something like that because, I understand the appeal of the game, but not against maybe the best matchup all year long. Right. VMI, the Citadel, will be played next year, too. That's the only thing there. Anyway, he's SoCon John Hooper. This is what we do every week. He'll be back on Monday at 1:30. I got to show you. He's at the Big South Media Days, so we'll let him go with that. And I got to show you this picture of, yes, with a sports relationship, a pretty woman. It has something to do with Tom Brady, okay? We go along that line. Or try their Japanese fare, sushi, sashimi, and the grill. I had my birthday dinner at Asian House and was most satisfied. Find the great menu and deals at goasianhouse.com. Use Tom for catering. You'll be most satisfied too. Asian House, nestled in the Shops on West Market on the way to Jonesboro. Mention 1420 WEMB Sports Radio and get 10% off.